This is James Duval. Thank you so much for watching our movies and liking it. Let me introduce you to Frank. Frank would also like to say hello. Yes, he would also like to know, why are you wearing that stupid human suit? Oh, sorry. Don't listen to him. I have to hear that every single day. Anyways, I hope you're doing well. And as things begin to open up, you can look forward to a much brighter future. Until then, please, just don't go out there. Hope you're well. Much love. See you around.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. Before we get into tonight's episode, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoooutthere.com. You know, everything about our podcast is on our website. Brian did a great job designing it. We got all of our episodes and interviews if you want to go listen to, our new content, or if you want to just go back and listen to our interviews. They're all in one little spot. It's a lot easier to find them than scrolling through 200 plus episodes on on iTunes or Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely check that out. We have our store, which has some new merch, some new T-shirts. They're really nice. Check those out as well. We also have Shan's Etsy page attached. She's got all of her new tumblers. She's doing a great job. Her business is booming. Check her out as well. And we also have, like all of our social media links on our website: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever they call it these days for all those social media platforms. We love interacting with our fans. We've been putting out a lot of content, a lot of giveaways, so definitely check us out on social media. We stay connected really good with our fans, I feel like. And the last thing we'll shout out before we get into the film review tonight is our Patreon, what we call blood donors. We have two different kinds. Traditional, monthly, reoccurring. Helps us pay the bills around here, helps us pay for what we record on, where we host our website and our podcast, and it helps me pay for the software we use to upload our YouTube videos. So none of the money goes in our pockets. It just helps us pay for the podcast. Really appreciate it. And we also have one-time donations. If you're a big fan of a movie and you want us to review it, just check us out on our website, don'tgoooutthere.com. Tonight is the third entry in Sci-Fi month. It's my pick tonight. Kind of struggled with this month just because I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but I came down to a few of them that I was pretty interested in reviewing. Two of them I hadn't seen, but then I just Googled, sci-fi / horror movies, and this one popped up, and I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna pick that one because I like that one, and I think we should talk about it. It's one of those mind fuck movies, kinda, and it gets talked about a lot. And I'm just gonna read off something that I saw that I really liked. And this is just going to be my opening thoughts, and I'll let Brian take over. I saw this on IMDb, so these aren't my words. Donnie Darko is a tough film to explain or even discuss, as there are many alternative explanations for what you've just seen. Donnie Darko is a mind-bending film that is very hard to rate or even review. It's incredibly strange and watchable, but also confusing and open to many interpretations. My advice is just watch it and see what you think. Saw that on an IMDb review. I thought it was really good. That's just his little opening statement. So that's just my opening thoughts. Watch it, interpret it how you feel. But I'm a big fan of the movie, and I will touch on the pros and cons at the end. But I'm a big fan of the movie. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, hey, first off, it's nice to be back, by the way. My first movie review in 203 episodes I missed last week, and it hurt my heart to do so. But honestly, with my schedule, the guys know it's kind of a miracle that it took this long for me to miss. But we released the episode on Monday. We're recording this on Tuesday, and I just want to thank you guys for the messages that I got, like, making sure I was okay, saying it's weird not hearing me on. Fans of the show, Michelle and Eric especially. I mean, without question, I was not needed anyway. I mean, the guys kill it. They always do. But it really did make me feel good, like, that some people actually do care if I'm not around on the show. So just first off, I wanted to say thank you, especially to you two, for the love that you showed. But as far as this movie goes, first off, for two people that don't like science fiction, Nico, you and Mike chose some serious ass science fiction movies this month. This movie came out the year that I graduated high school. I didn't see it for the first time until a few years later, but I kind of liken it to the same way that I did American Psycho and Fight Club. Like it was one of those like mind blowing movies, but in the mind blowing sense where I was like, what the fuck just happened? I tend to gravitate towards the liking it side. It's just one of those things where like, I mean, and we've discussed this before, where to like understand it, you have to do extra research on the film. And even then it's hard to wrap your head around, which is usually not a good thing at all. And I don't think it's a good thing here, but without the extra research, you can easily chalk this up to schizophrenia. If you didn't want to get into all the alternate universes and all that stuff and it still be a good movie. Some stuff I don't have to understand. Now, a killer tire, I need to fucking know why the tire's alive and killing people. but some stuff like this, I can just enjoy either way, honestly. I think Richard Kelly put together a fantastic cast for this. I think the movie is beautifully shot. I think the story is tragic and honestly very well crafted. But like Nico said last week, this is one of those where I feel like you definitely either love it or despise it. I think usually, but I'm going to break that mold and kind of slide right into the middle. I think I choose to just enjoy the story, knowing just the facts that we're giving in the actual movie. But it is very divisive. I definitely get that. And sidebar, the soundtrack's tremendous. And even though it's barely even in this movie, Mad World is definitely like top 15 favorite songs of all time for me.
Okay. This movie is like Inception level to me. And what I mean by that is great movies, I think. I don't know. What the hell am I looking at here?
Right,
now,
exactly.
I've seen this movie multiple times, and I don't dislike it or like it anymore with each viewing, which is unusual. Because when you see a movie more than once, it's either because what the hell did I just watch? I don't think I liked it, and then you watch it again, it's like, no, I know I don't like it. Same. Or you watch it and you're like, I really like this. I'm gonna watch it again. This one is like this movie's like a Rubik's Cube to me. Like you think you solve it one time, you're like, oh, okay, I can do that again. And you watch it again, it's like, wait, how did I get to that last conclusion? I don't know. It's a very good movie, I think. The acting's great. I think that some of the undertones are great because if you want to take it from a mental health standpoint, fantastic.
Yep.
Paranoid schizophrenia, he certainly displays some of those aspects. If you want to take it from a philosophical standpoint, it touches on the concepts of free will versus the predetermined nature of humans.
Yep.
Great. Either way you want to take it, it's great. If you want to infuse both of them, say this is a mixture of the two, even better. I don't know. I like the fact that we get, a young Jake Gyllenhaal acting his ass off. The cast is phenomenal. I mean, yes. Great, dude. We get Patrick Swayze in a support role. We got Drew Barrymore, who, confession time, Drew Barrymore has always been a celebrity crush of mine. I don't know what it is, but I love Drew Barrymore. She just seems like the legit girl next door. Everybody says girl next door, but she just seems like so regular and so down to earth and cool. Call me sometime.
There you go. There it is. There it is.
I really like this movie, I think, and I'm excited that you picked this movie, Nico. Honestly, hats off to you, man. I didn't expect you to pick this movie, just to be honest with you. Like you said, Brian, for two people that admit that they don't like sci-fi movie, the two that you and Mike pick was like, oh, okay, shit, let's go. So I'm glad you picked it. I hope you feel the same about Gattaca, my pick, that I feel about yours. You like it, you think.
I have no clue. I don't even have a honest idea of what it's even about. So I'm looking forward to it. It's got Ethan Hawke in it, so I'm looking forward to that.
Go.
It's like the guys who are like, I don't know if I like football. It's all right. It's not really that good, but I'm going to go out and fucking play NFL and see if I like it. Like that's them picking these two movies. It's like as far as you can go.
Yeah. Hey, I've never swung a golf club, but I'm going to join the PGA Tour. So
there's always exceptions to your big rule or whatever,
Facts.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I like Aliens, but I don't like Alien at all, really. I mean, I think you just like what you like. Any more opening thoughts before we jump into the scene by scene?
I'm ready.
All right, and I'm gonna try and do this movie justice, but it's a pretty intimidating one, and there's a lot of dialogue, so I didn't write all that down, but I know Brian and Dustin will hammer that down. But the film starts with the sound of thunder. We now see aerial shots of mountainside scenery, and we see a young man in the middle of the road laid down with his bicycle beside him. Donnie sits up in a daze. He now smiles, and we get a title card. Groovy tune plays as Donnie takes off on this bicycle down this mountainside road. He's back in town riding through the suburbs. We see normal suburb family activities, women walking for exercise, dads leaf blowing. Donnie gets home and drops his bike and walks inside. We're at dinner now, and the Darko family converse on the government taking dad's check and Elizabeth having children at 30. Samantha asks, when can she squeeze one out? Not until 8th grade, Donnie says. Donnie and Elizabeth begin to argue about therapy and Donnie not taking his medication, and they call each other a fuck ass and to suck a fuck. Mom shoots the conversation down as the two laugh. Dad laughs when little Sam asks, what's a fuck ass? Donnie tells his mom he's reading and Get Out. She asks where he goes at night. She says she doesn't recognize her son anymore. What happened? He snaps and she walks out, and he calls her a bitch, and she stops mid walk, stunned. She tells her husband what he said. He says, you're not a bitch, you're just bitching. Donnie takes his meds. Eddie wakes up and begins to watch a presidential debate. The clock strikes midnight, October 2nd, 1988. We hear something say, wake up, and we see Donnie get out of bed. He sleepwalks, and a voice says, I've been watching you, as he walks down the stairs. Come closer, the voice says, and he walks out the door and outside the house. He now sees a giant bunny rabbit figure that says 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. That is when the world will end. Donnie asks why with an evil look on his face. Elizabeth sneaks back inside the home, and all of a sudden a loud crash shakes the home. The family awakes and race upstairs. The next morning, they find Donnie Darko asleep on a golf course. Some golfers joke about him sleep golfing, and Donnie has the time the rabbit told him written on his arm. We now see Donnie walk home to see it barricaded off with onlookers and the news there. A plane engine crashed through the home into Donnie's room. FAA approaches the family and asks to speak to the mom and dad privately. They've gotten the family a hotel. Elizabeth tells Donnie they don't know where it came from. Mom and dad lay on the bed, and dad brings up Frankie Feeder from high school. He died on his way to prom, remember? The same thing could have happened to Donnie. Samantha asks if it fell from the plane. What happened to the plane? Sam and Donnie are dropped off at the bus stop. Some of Donnie's friends rib him about falling asleep on the golf course. They offer him a cigarette and they make fun of a girl and are very mean, saying, go back to China, bitch. We now see the kids going to class, and one kid takes a sniff of drugs. Jim Cunningham shakes hands with staff members, and we see girls doing a cheer routine. We're in Karen Pomeroy's class now, and she reads from a book to the class. She asks the class what the author was trying to say. She calls on Donnie now. He says destruction is a form of creation, and a new student walks in and is told to sit by the boy she thinks is the cutest. She sits by Donnie Darko. Dad tells Donnie it's going to take over a week to fix the roof. They still don't know where it came from. Dad tells Donnie he can tell Dr. Thurman whatever he wants. Donnie yells out, Dad, and he slams brakes as an old lady Miss Sparrow is in the middle of the road. He says, no mail, maybe tomorrow. And she whispers in Donnie's ear and walks off. And Dad asks, what did she say? All right, Brian, that's a lot, but that's the opening scenes. What you think?
Yeah, I got kind of a little bit on this, so bear with me here. And I know Dustin kind of touched on the fact that there are a million different theories to this movie. I agree with him. I do think it's kind of cool and one of those rare ones where it kind of opens itself to be whatever you kind of want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I bring that up because one of them I read was that the entire thing is a dream as Donnie laid on the ground after this bike wreck here at the very beginning. The other one I thought that was hilarious is that this was a prequel to The Matrix. But regardless, I think we can all agree that this opening montage with Donnie riding this bike through the neighborhood has got to be an homage to Caddyshack, right? I mean, I just need the I'm all right, don't nobody worry about me. I need that soundtrack going. But also along those lines, though, the opening has a lot of John Hughes vibes, like Breakfast Club, all those 80s movies that I love that would be canceled nowadays, by the way. I love that they got Maggie Gyllenhaal to play Donnie's sister. That whole brother-sister chemistry with her and Jake going back and forth at dinner, you can't act that out. I mean, it's just something that's natural. Sidebar, you had a crush on Drew Barrymore. Back then, I had a big crush on Maggie. Like, call me. Maggie back in 2001. Back in
brother.
2001. But anyway, again, this cast is ridiculous. Davy Chase here is a year before she was Samara in The Ring. You got Jenna fucking Malone. You mentioned Drew Barrymore, who's only in this because her company paid to get the film made and released in theaters. And her part is small as hell, but just having her in it, I mean, it's like Scream. I mean, just having her in the movie, even just a little bit, elevates it to another level, I think.
Yep.
There's not a ton of, quote, names that can do that, but she definitely can. This dinner scene, I think, really gives you a ton of family dynamic in just a short period of time. Like, this is one of those John Hughes moments I felt like where the dialogue was spot on. And can we say that this movie was ahead of its time, and the fact that maybe only emo kids or alties, as we called them in middle school, was like Donnie. But nowadays, I mean, that's pretty much 90% all teenagers now. Like, every time my son wears a hoodie to school, I'm like, cool, you're emo today. And I get, shut up, Dad, you don't even know what an emo is. I mean, okay, that's fair. But anyway, Donnie needs his ass kicked, by the way, by his parents. Just throwing that out there, too. Two more little things. I love the way his sleepwalking is shot. This is the first time that we're introduced to Jake's crazy ass smile too. And I don't know if you guys have seen Nightcrawler, but Jake Gyllenhaal can play a creepy ass motherfucker amazingly. Apparently he doesn't blink to kind of enhance the creepiness factor, and by God, it works. But the way it's shot and kind of fades into the first time that we see Frank in the bunny suit on the golf course, and the way that after the plane engine hits the house, everything's in slow motion as they start to panic. I love it. I think it's tremendously shot by Kelly. I would have liked to have seen the parents freaking out a little more that their son is possibly dead before they found out he wasn't even in the room. I mean, they were just standing there looking up, talking, having, like, oh, no big deal. I get the wanting the difference for the end, but it kind of just came across weird, at first here. And the last thing, I'll get into some other stuff later, but can I also ask the questions that are harping in all of our minds in this deep mind fuck of a movie here, which is the kind of in-depth analysis that you expect from our show. Number one, how the fuck did the boys jump off the back of the bus without the alarm going off? There you go. And why the fuck did Joni's dumbass raise her hand to answer a question when she hadn't even read the short story? I thought that was ridiculous. Barrymore's you look like you belong here and pick a seat by the cutest boy. Nowadays, Joni, get the fuck up. Canceled. That made me laugh, by the way. Oh, and another crazy theory is that Gretchen is actually Grandma Death as well. Mind blown. Go ahead.
What did you just say to me right then? Gretchen is who? All right. I love the intro to this movie. So, fun fact, when we get the title card in this movie, it's written in a font that was actually the original font on the poster art, but the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the release of this movie, the timing, the font was deemed like too close to an Arabic-style font, and this movie was released really close to September 11, 2001, so that's why the movie poster and all the advertising features a different font than the original font that was used in the title card. So that's weird to me. God
damn it, Dustin, you know the way to my heart, baby. I love those facts. I love those font facts. Let's go.
Yeah, you're a big font guy. You know I can appreciate it. But I do love the intro here. Like right off the rip, we understand that Donnie has problems. Like this kid just woke up presumably miles from his home and discombobulated. I like that. Because you can already tell something's going on here, even if you know nothing about the movie. I love the dynamic of the family and the dialogue that we get here. I mean, that's real. And honestly, I think it really helps that it's Jake and Maggie in this set of scenes because like it felt authentic. Maybe I'm overthinking that because I know they're siblings in real life, but it just felt like real sibling rivalry argument at the dinner table there. And I think that was great. I like the plane engine scene. Like it makes you think. It's almost like one of those. Okay, if because at this point we don't know about and we'll get into it. I don't want to jump the gun here, but at this point we don't know about the alternate universe or the predetermined versus free will thing. But it's one of those things where it makes you think. Okay, maybe there is a higher power looking out for us because if he had been in his bed, he would be donezo at this point in the movie. So I really like that. It's like holy, thank God something was looking out. So God was looking out for him, or he'd have been dead. It's one of those things you always think about. Man, I'm running late for work, but if I was on time, would I have gotten a wreck? Like that kind of thing runs through my mind a lot. So I don't know. I like that set of scenes. I do agree with you though. The parents should have been a little bit more distraught. That is my son dead? Like,
Right.
he didn't exit the house with us. Oh, there he is. Like, I don't know. That was a little bit undersold, in my opinion. There, it's pretty rough stuff from the bullying there. So, stop Asian hate. I want to bring that hashtag into this episode. That was pretty rough, but it's also a very good depiction of like that felt authentic as well. So I can appreciate the authenticity, but it's a big time yikes for me. I love Drew Barrymore's teaching style because you can tell she's the younger, more contemporary teacher. Like she's fresh out of college and she's here to challenge these students to be free thinkers and read your homework or read your assigned reading before you speak up in my class. But she's one of the cool teachers. You can just pick up that vibe from her. And I love how she's like, all right, Joni, get up. Like that was, I like that, but you're right, Brian. That wouldn't fly today. Sit by who you think's cutest. She'd be hashtag canceled. But, and then the last thing I put is the introduction to Grandma Death was very eerie. Her character was very unsettling. And even in the later set of scenes where we understand that she does the same thing every day. Watch her. She's going to the mailbox. Like it's just very eerie. And it makes you uncomfortable to think that this woman is out there doing this every day and no one cares enough to like put her in a home because she's clearly going to cause an accident, which we find out later she does. But it's like it's a very eerie and unsettling introduction to this character. And then once we find out more about her, it's just I don't know. This movie does such a great job of storytelling and planting these things early in the film that you come back to later and you're like, oh, eye opener. So that's the kind of storytelling that I can really appreciate. Even if I don't know what the hell's going on, I appreciate that you're making me think. So that's pretty much how I feel about this movie in a nutshell. But it's a great opening set of scenes, and if nothing else, I can't take my eyes off the screen because I'm a little confused already. What's going on with these people? So, go ahead.
All right, we're in Donnie's therapy session now. He said he made a new friend. He's imaginary, and his name is Frank. And it said to follow him into the future. He said the world was coming to an end. Donnie says he doesn't think the world is coming to an end, though. We're in Miss Kitty's class, and she's showing a Jim Cunningham tape. This woman speaks on seeing her ego image in the mirror. Jim speaks on life being too precious to be controlled by fear. We now see Donnie lying on the couch. He hears, "Wake up, Donnie," and sees Frank the bunny. Donnie walks out the house with an axe on his shoulder. He destroys the water line at school. He's back on the couch. October 6, 1988. 24 days remain. Back to the bus stop, and a girl runs up and says school is canceled because it's flooded. The janitor tells Principal Cole he's got 12 classrooms full of water, and he shows them the brass bulldog with an axe in its head. How did this happen? We now see him spray paint the words, "They made me do it." Donnie walks with that look on his face. Two guys circle Gretchen and are creeping on her. Donnie tells him school's canceled, and she asks if he'll walk her home. He now asks why'd she move here. She tells him her dad stabbed her mom 4 times, and she had to change her name. He tells her he was in jail once for burning down a house. I can't drive until 21, but he paints and he writes now. She asks what kind of name is Donnie Darko. It sounds like a superhero name. She says she has to go write a physics essay about the greatest invention of mankind. Donnie says antiseptics. He says he's glad school was canceled because they never would have had this conversation. She calls him weird, but says that's a compliment. He asks if she wants to go with him. She says yes and smiles and walks away. He turns around and walks off. He's back in therapy now, and she says she wants to try something new, hypnosis. When I clap twice, you'll wake up. She asks him about his week. He met a girl named Gretchen, and we go together now. He says he thinks about girls a lot and fucking during school. He doesn't answer any of her other questions and begins to unbutton his pants, and she claps, stopping him as he reaches down his pants. The police are having all the students write They made me do it to try and match to the writing outside. Principal puts a question mark by Donnie's name. Donnie is confronted by someone in the bathroom asking if he said that he was the one who flooded the school. He grabs him from behind and puts a knife to his throat. He says, I think you did it. He throws Donnie into the wall and walks away. We're in a field now shooting bottles, and Donnie's friends are talking about Smurfs fucking. Donnie turns around, hits them with an epic, well, actually. What's the point of living if you don't have a dick, Donnie says. They see Miss Kitty helping Miss Sparrow off the road. Donnie says she does the same thing every day. They watch her check her mailbox again. Donnie is back on the couch hearing about the vandalism at school. We're at a PTA meeting now, and the principal talks on the police search. Miss Kitty asks why filth is being taught to their children. She says she's the only one who transcends the parent-teacher bridge having a child in the school. Donnie takes his pills and hears Frank say, Don't worry, you got away with it. She shows the crowd the book from Graham Greene, The Destructor. Donnie touches, I wrote a force field that ripples as he looks at Frank. I can do anything I want, and so can you, Frank tells Donnie. Miss Kitty says this book should be banned. She tells Miss Pomeroy to go back to grad school. Frank says they are in great danger when Donnie asks why he flooded the school. Where do you come from? Donnie asks. Do you believe in time travel? And Samantha asks, who are you talking to? I'm taking my pills, and then she walks away. All right, Brian, go ahead. That's the next set of scenes I got.
So it was cool to see the legend Catherine Ross, who I didn't realize the first time I watched this was actually playing Dr. Thurman. The Graduate, the original Stepford Wives, Butch Cassidy. She's an absolute legend. Again, just adding to this ridiculous cast. During the hypnotism scene too, like apparently they were going to use Alyssa Milano as who he was fantasizing about, but it had to be changed to Christina Applegate due to some legal reasons and Kelly is actually on record as saying that he thought about staying in the scene for one cut and not having Thurman clap to get a different take, but, quote, thought better of it as he got worried since Jake was a method actor and he thinks during this time he might have stayed in the scene and kept going with the whole masturbation thing. So he changed his mind about that whole little thing. Good call. Um, these Patrick Swayze Love and Fear promo videos are both hilarious, and also they provoked like this very strong reaction in me as I continued to keep asking every time they came on, what the fuck class is this? Like it didn't make any sense, whatever class they were in. But shout out to Helen from Speed and Beth Grant who plays that one crazy ass teacher and head of the PTA just fucking perfectly. Rest in peace, Swayze. Kind of crazy to think that this is actually just a few years before his diagnosis and his passing. But fun fact, Swayze actually wore his own clothes, that he still had from the 80s. One nitpick I did have all throughout this movie, though, is the pacing, like the cuts. It was weirdly done. I didn't like how you'd be in a scene and then it would cut you into something that was like that night or the next day. And it took me a second anyway to be like, where the fuck are we at? Like, it's just not as organic, I guess, as I would have liked in that regard. You also get more questions and no answers. I know that there's some theories out there about his super strength, but that definitely stood out to me in this set of scenes when it showed the axe in the head of that. What, by the way, is the fucking weirdest ass mascot for any school. It had like a man's body looking like he's taking a shit, and then like the head of a bulldog. It's super bizarre. But even they make the comment about how much strength it would take to put a fucking axe in the head of that thing. And that's one of those things in this movie that I just kind of overlooked, to be honest. It's either a major plot hole for the movie or for me anyway, for the movie, because I can't even wrap my head around the whole theory that goes with that and him being like this representation of Christ. I don't know. A little tidbit though, in the shot under the dog man nipple statue thing, it says they made me do it. But later in the scene for the Halloween party, just before the end, like you can see a shot of that message on the fridge that says Frank was here, went to get beer. The two texts are like in the same handwriting, so that's a little bit of a hint at the spoiler that Frank, who went out to get beer, is the same Frank as the emo Roger Rabbit guy. couple more things. It's super fitting, I think, right? That this was Seth Rogen's first film and his very first line in any movie, and the line is "I like your boobs," right? I mean, that dialogue. I think it fits perfectly. I do think the dialogue though is pretty bad in this set of scenes, especially between the kids, between Gretchen and Donnie. Even in the going together thing at the end, I mean, come on, like that's middle school shit, like not high school. But
That's how
anyway,
they
just
talk there. He explained that. This is what we say
yeah,
here.
yeah, okay.
Are you
Well,
from
I didn't care.
Middlesex?
I
Come on,
didn't
bro.
care for it. No. Which, by the way, weird name for a town too. Super weird name. Um. Anyway, just a little nitpick there as far as I'm concerned with the script. I'm also not a fan of Alex Greenwald's character. He's like some weird ass greaser from the 50s and 60s, and just he seems like out of place. Like even has this damn switchblade. I just think I think the whole character is garbage. I didn't like him at all. And the last tidbit is with the the Smurfette scene. I thought that convo was funny as shit. Like again, another kind of John Hughes type little moment there. It felt real. It felt like, but they actually got permission to use the whole Smurfette, this entire conversation about the Smurfs from their estate, and it was allowed because what Donnie says is actually accurate. But this is my favorite scene. My favorite scene in the whole movie. Like I don't know why, it just seemed real. Like I said, like this is a convo that these three boys I felt like would be having. Even the whole thing about grandma death, it cracked me up. I love it.
Yeah. All right, so this set of scenes, we get introduced to Frank, like really introduced to him, and it's creepy as shit. Like, what the hell kind of Halloween costume are you wearing, buddy? Like, that mask is fucked. But I think it does a good job because it makes you question, like, is Frank real? Is Frank not real? And I do love the revelation that we get later in the film. When we get to the hypnotherapy, I think that this is a great set of scenes because it really drives home the fact that his parents are concerned. He doesn't know what's going on with himself, so he's agreeing to go, and he's being vulnerable. He's open himself. He's willing to try to figure out what's going on with himself. Why does he feel this way? Patrick Swayze's character reminds me of what's his name from The Simpsons. I'm Troy McClure, and this is, what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Reminds me of Phil Hartman's character from The Simpsons. Like, I'm Troy McClure, and you might recognize me from films such as, and like, I don't know, those corny infomercials, or even Ernie McCracken from Kingpin, how he's like, I'm here for the kids, but really we find out that he's really a piece of shit. But shout out to Patrick Swayze again. Like, that's, like you said, this, when you consider this is one of the last movies I can really remember him in having a significant role in. I thought the teacher casting was phenomenal. She really, that might be the most perfect casting of any movie ever. I'm talking about Beth Grant as Kitty Farmer, because she really looks the part of that teacher that's just a do-gooder and condemns everyone. And so I thought that was great casting. Him flooding the school, when we get later into the movie and we're introduced to the book with the secrets of time travel or whatever that was written by Grandma Death. Oh, spoiler. Sorry. I jumped the gun. But when we get that book and we see the notes in it, or we find out the things about the key to stopping the end of the world and how he'll be able to control water and control fire, I thought that was great storytelling as well. That's one of those prolonged things. Seeds planted here, and we think, oh, he's just hallucinating and he wants to flood a school because he's a troubled kid. And then later in the film, I really appreciated that. When we get to he's in the bathroom and he's taking his pills, and Frank appears, and he's like stuck. He's stuck behind a force field, and he can't bust through, and he's got that deranged look in his eyes. I think that Jake Gyllenhaal, I can't commend him enough for his portrayal in this movie of Donnie. Just the look in his face, or on his face, as he's communicating with Frank here, is so unsettling. And you could tell, like, he's baffled by the fact that he can't go through this force field, but it's amusing to him at the same time. Like, it's very creepy. Well done. The last thing thing that I wrote down on this set of scenes, I actually forgot about until you mentioned it there, the Smurf set of scenes, or when they're sitting outside talking about the Smurfs, that conversation. That was hilarious. But I also really like the fact that they drove home again that Donnie might be trouble, but man, he's pretty much a genius. Because even they said, like, you're too smart for us, or whatever they said, when they're trying to have a fun conversation and just boys being boys, and he's like, well, actually, you're morons. They weren't created for sex. They don't even have dicks. And she was sent in by Gargamel to infiltrate them and betray them. Like, fantastic writing there to just further drive home the fact that Donnie's clearly distracted during all this. He's half-assed paying attention, yet he's genius enough to dispel everything that they're trying to say. So another good set of scenes to advance where we're going.
Hey, I just thought about this though, and I really don't know the legal reasons. I know Alyssa Milano's mom, was kind of really protective of her or whatever back then. But in 1988, Alyssa Milano was like 15 or 16. Maybe it had to do with because of her age. And Christina Applegate, I think, I'm not 100% sure of her age, but I think she was at least of age in 1988. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
From what I saw on YouTube, is she hated the movie and refused to have her name be exploited.
Oh, okay.
Well, Christina Applegate would have been 17 in 88.
Okay.
I just looked it up. But that makes sense, Nico. Which I we'll get into later, I guess, but this movie wasn't very popular upon release.
Right.
It was after the fact. So I mean that makes sense.
Alyssa Milano was 16 in 88. I thought she was younger than that when she was on Who's the Boss.
I didn't realize she was born in 72? I didn't realize that.
I guess so. Yep.
Back to watching the Jim Cunningham tape, and Miss Kitty says life is divided into two extremes, fear and love, which is written on the chalkboard. She hands out cards and calls Charita to the board. She reads off her scenario and places an X on fear. She now calls on Mr. Darko, who reads his scenario. He says, I'm sorry, I don't get this. You can't just lump things into two categories. It's not that simple. He goes off on her and says, you can't deny everything else. We're in the principal's office now, and he tells Donnie his Iowa test scores are intimidating. What did you say to Miss Camry? She speaks up saying, he said to forcibly insert the lifeline card into my anus. Mr. Darko hides a laugh with a cough. Rose talks to Kitty one-on-one now. She says, ever since the jet engine fiasco, she just doesn't know. Kitty says after experiencing her son's behavior, she questions her ability as a mother, essentially. She says their paths in life must be righteous. She prays her son doesn't succumb to the path of fear. Elizabeth is on the phone with a friend saying she wishes an engine fell in her room so she could get a bunch of free stuff. October 10th, 1988, 20 days remain. I can show you the way, Frank says. Donnie asks Dr. Monatoff about time travel. He shows him a book from Stephen Hawking, and they discuss time travel. You have to have a vessel and a portal. Drive faster than the speed of light. He gives him a book and says, don't tell anyone I gave it to you. She used to be a teacher here. The philosophy of time travel. He smirks when he realizes it's Roberta Sparrow. Donnie walks to the school and sees Miss Sparrow's picture and calls her Grandma Death. Donnie is telling the family about the book now. Rose says Grandma Death is a terrible nickname, and Dad says she's loaded but lives in a piece of crap house. She's a total recluse. Donnie tells his therapist about his encounter with Miss Sparrow. Frank asks if he knew about time travel, and she wrote a book on it, so he feels Frank wants him to talk to her. He tells her she told him every living creature on Earth dies alone. How did it make you feel, she asked him. It reminded him of his dog Callie. She died when he was 8. Do you feel alone right now, she asked. I like to believe I'm not, but I try not to debate it. The search for God is absurd, she asked. It is if everyone dies alone. I don't want to be alone. Rose and a friend drink wine, and she says, you have to meet this Jim Cunningham. I can't believe he's single. Donnie wakes up in the chair, and Dad says we need a quarterback as they watch a football game. Donnie sees like an energy beam. I don't know what it's technically called, but he sees an energy beam exit his dad's chest. He sees it in Samantha's chest too, and his, and he begins to chuckle. It gives him the finger gesture to come here, and he follows it upstairs to a closet. He opens a box and finds a gun in it. Donnie is at the bus stop now and stares as a plane flies over him. October 18th, 1988, 12 days remaining. Gretchen asks if he could go back in time and take back all those things of pain. He now says, look, we've been going together for 2 weeks, and he starts to stammer now. She asks, you want to kiss me? And he reaches in to kiss her, but he's shut down. She says she just wants it at a time of how beautiful the world can be. She says there's some fat guy staring at us now. Rose and Eddie speak to Donnie's therapist now. She tells him Donnie's aggressive behavior is from his inability to cope with forces in the world that seem threatening. She brings up Frank now. We see Donnie grab a knife now and take pills. Donnie is experiencing a daylight hallucination. We see Donnie stabbing the mirror with Frank's reflection and it ripples. Donnie smirks at the mirror. Therapist wants more hypnotherapy and more medication. All right, Brian's the next set of scenes I got. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, what fucking class is this? Because I mean, Jesus. Another little tidbit though about these Patrick Swayze infomercials: they're actually all shot at Patrick Swayze's ranch in Lakeview Terrace, California. So, little fun fact there. Also, dead giveaway that this movie takes place in some crazy alternate universe. That this '80s TV picture is like 4K. Just throwing that out there too. A little tidbit about these, and what I read that they were called future blobs, Nico. I don't know, but that's what I read that they were called. But actually, they look just like the fluid things from the Abyss. So I don't know, the Abyss things. But apparently, Kelly came up with the idea from none other than watching football. John Madden used to use a telestrator where he'd diagram a paused video to show where the players were about to go moments before letting the tape roll. Kelly watched this while he was high and started to think about what would happen hypothetically if someone upstairs was doing that to humans. Fittingly enough, Donnie first notices the quote future blobs while watching football on his 4K TV in the 80s. And I don't know if anyone else noticed this or because, like I said earlier, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to fonts. But like Nico says, but Donnie's Triumph shirt looks like the same font that's very recognizable today as the Stranger Things title. Just throwing it out there too. This is also another example of the pacing issue I had. Like we're introduced to this thing, this Abyss thing. It takes him to a gun, and then bam! Suddenly they're in the next day looking up at a plane. Like I wanted more from that. I wanted to stay in these scenes, and I felt that a lot during this movie. But last thing, I don't have a whole lot of in this set of scenes. I know we're introduced to the philosophy of time travel, which apparently explains this movie even more in depth. But I'm gonna let Dustin touch on that if he has it, because I kind of don't really choose to see this movie in that light. So I did personally feel like that this bit of scenes kind of drug on for me and didn't really progress in me enough in moving the story forward to the next set of scenes when the things really kick back into gear. But that's all I had. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, so like I mentioned at the beginning, this movie, one of the thought processes or one of the theories behind the movie is that it's really harping on the concept of humans having free will versus a predetermined life and a predetermined destination. So I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Baruch Spinoza was I believe a 17th century philosopher, and he was really big on this theory of free will versus predetermined destination. And he likened it to a stone rolling down a road. So the stone is only aware of its journey. It has no idea what the end is, but it knows what's going on. The stone is along on this ride. And this set of scenes really focuses on that, if you want to take it that way. So the whole concept of love versus fear, and those being your only two options, this is Donnie breaking out and becoming self-aware. The other students are just on their journey and like, hey, I'm along for the ride. These are my two options. I'm going to pick one of them. Donnie's becoming more self-aware, and he's challenging this. Wait, do I have free will? Because this doesn't make sense. That's not enough options. What if Ling Ling, or I think that was the person's name on his flashcard. What if Ling Ling has a circumstance that drove him to take the money out of the wallet? It's not out of fear, it's out of necessity. Like there's a whole broad spectrum of human emotions that's not considered when you only look at things through the spectrum of love versus fear. Okay, so that's that part. Now, again, this teacher casting was phenomenal because she's, no, honey, no, this is the way it is. And you just got to believe me. And you got to pick from these things. He told me to stick that card up my nether regions or whatever she said. Like, such a perfect casting. And then, when she's face to face with Mrs. Darko and she's like, I'm just so concerned about your ability to be a good mother. It's like, ooh, woman, like that's grounds for a smacking in the face right there. But I do like when Donnie has the time travel concept or conversation with his teacher. This is again one of those, like, he's challenging the norms. He's becoming more self-aware. I had never heard the theory that you mentioned, Brian, about how this is like a prequel to The Matrix. I'd never heard that before, but it really is interesting because Neo has an awakening, right? Like, he's aware things are happening that I'm supposed to question these things. And that's exactly what Donnie's doing. He's like, what do you know about time travel? Tell me more about it. And, and we get back to the conversation with his therapist about being alone. I'd like to think I'm not, but all indications say that, I don't want to debate it anymore. Again, that goes back to him challenging things and him not just accepting his norms and being misdiagnosed, because so often, especially in this time, like, things were different 30 years ago. 30 years ago, mental health was not, there was such confusion and just ignorance when it comes to it. There's like, oh, we just give more medication. And that's what she does here. And again, it goes back to when his conversation with his teacher, and I don't remember if it's this set of scenes or the next set of scenes. I think it's the next conversation he has with the teacher, but about the orbs coming out of the chest. And that is visual representation. You watch the kids running through the house and they look like they're doing what they want, but the orbs are going before them, showing what their next move is. So do we have free will, or is it predetermined? And this is one of those movies that really challenges your own way of thinking, because when I'm on my way home today, I was thinking about this movie, or thinking about this set of scenes and the orbs. And I'm like, what if we have that? I could pull my truck over on the side of the freeway right now. That's my choice. But what if it was already predetermined that I was going to do that? It's just one of those things that makes the wheel turn. And I really appreciate that. Again, it's far more complex than I was able to think about. If I had a week to really watch this movie a few more times and really sit and think on it, I could probably get close, but I'm not even going to kid myself and say that I'm smart enough to understand the concepts of this set of scenes. But that's my takeaway from it. I think that this is really wanting you to challenge that notion that we do have free will, or make you think about, are we on a predetermined path, or so I think this set of scenes was great at doing that. And I like what you said about the telestrator. I had that in my notes as well, the John Madden. Hey, John Madden's a legend. And I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Nico.
I like that, Dustin, the energy beams and how it seemingly shows their next move before they do. I like that. I didn't even think about that, honestly. But I like that. We're in an assembly with Jim Cunningham now as he's trying to hype up the audience with Good Morning chants. He's going to tell them a sad story of a man who searched for love in all the wrong places. His name is Frank, and Donnie is alerted by that. Other kids ask questions, and now Donnie is on the mic. How much they paying you to be here? He lies about his name. Donnie starts going off now. He says, fat sister should stop eating Twinkies and exercise. Want to stop being bullied? Lift weights and fight back. Jim says he's a troubled young man. Donnie says he is troubled and confused and calls Jim the Antichrist. The crowd claps for him as he's escorted away. Donnie is venting to Gretchen about Jim. She has him sit down and calm down. He brings up Grandma Death and hands her the time travel book. He says, I'm seeing stuff. A lot of really messed up stuff. It can't be a coincidence because it's in that book. Donnie is talking to Professor Monitov, now some more on time travel. He asks if these portals could appear anytime, anywhere. He calls that acts of God. Donnie says if God controls time, all time is pre-decided. Professor says he's contradicting himself. They chat more, and I can't really do this scene justice. There's a lot of chit-chat between them. It's really good, so definitely check the movie out. They chat more, and he tells Donnie he can't continue this conversation. He could lose his job. Donnie walks away frustrated. Donnie is in bed and looks at his calendar. He's walking to school now and finds Jim's wallet on the ground. Frank says, now you know where he lives. He's in therapy now and tells her of the energy beam he followed into his parents' bedroom, and she asks what he found, but he lies about finding the gun. He and Gretchen speak on their invention called IMGs, infant memory generators. Inside the glasses are photos of something beautiful. He thinks this will help develop memory in infancy. Another student asks, what if the parents put pictures of Satan in the glasses? She asks, would your parents do that? Then they say, didn't your dad stab your mother? And the professor kicks them out of class. Donnie chases after Gretchen, and they share their first kiss outside the school. Donnie gets 2 tickets for Evil Dead. It's only he and Gretchen in the theater, and she falls asleep. Donnie sees Frank beside her. Why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit? Why are you wearing that stupid man suit? He retorts. Take it off. He takes the head off, and we see Frank with a bloody, shot-out eye. I'm so sorry, Frank says. Why do they call you Frank? It is the name of my father and his father before me. Frank, when is this going to stop? You should already know. I want you to watch the screen. There's something I want to show you. Have you ever seen The Portal? Donnie looks in awe. Burn it to the ground when he sees a home. Donnie puts on his hood and walks out the theater. We see a talent show going on as Miss Kitty applies makeup and tells him failure is not an option. The audience claps for Charita as some kids yell, she sucks. Jim says, moments we've all been waiting for, and announces all the girls' name for Sparkle Motion. They do their dance, and the crowd they're really into it. We now see Donnie inside Jim's house pouring gasoline everywhere and setting the house on fire. The crowd cheers on the girls. We see Sarita sitting outside by herself, and Donnie walks back into the theater and sits beside Gretchen. He takes a bite of popcorn, and she wakes up. He says she was asleep the whole movie, and they kiss. Elizabeth watches the news, and firefighters discovered a child porn dungeon in Jim's house, and we see Jim being arrested. All right, go ahead, Brian. That's the next set of scenes I got.
So apparently, Kelly said that Donnie in the film surrenders to 3 temptations, which Jim Cunningham kind of mentions is alcohol, drugs, and premarital sex. But I mean, so they're saying something I didn't understand. So they're saying smoking a cigarette is drugs, because I missed the part where Donnie does any drugs, unless they're talking about prescription drug abuse. I mean, maybe I'm done. I don't know. I missed on that one.
Cigarettes are drugs, brother. That's the upper.
Okay. Well,
I think.
I don't know either. They didn't teach that in Dare, and whenever I was in Dare. Shout out to the super young Ashley Tisdale, by the way, who played Kim. That if she was in the movie before this auditorium scene, I don't know. I definitely missed it. But also playing on the whole Christ-like figure theory that I brought up in that last set of scenes on the marquee cinema is The Last Temptation of Christ as well. So that's been definitely looked into. I know a million times by all of the fans and the followers of this movie and examined and everything else. Now here's where some of our fans I think are going to wish that I had missed this week too. But a little tidbit: I think the Evil Dead franchise stinks, and I too took my wife on our first date to the movies to see the Evil Dead remake because I was hoping that it was somewhat better than the old ones. It stinks. The whole franchise stinks. So I can definitely understand and relate 100% to Gretchen falling asleep in the movie. Shout out to friend of the show, who's kind enough to do the intro to this episode though for us, and shows his face in this set of scenes. James Duvall. 2000's Gone in 60 Seconds was the first movie that I ever saw him in. He'll always be from that movie to me. But I thought he was great in the little amount of screen time that I think that he gets in this movie face wise. But his actual voice is used as well as it being him in the actual suit the whole entire time. There's actually a good documentary called Deus Ex Machina: The Philosophy of Donnie Darko, where Duvall talks about being in the suit and doing the voice. It actually gives some interesting insights like into this and like filmmaking in general. So if you're interested, definitely look that up. I thought makeup looked great on his eye as well. Shout out to Lynn Barber and her entire makeup and special effects team. I think they did a great job in this movie. It is weird that they'd be playing a movie that in 1988 was 7 years old. Heck, I mean, even Evil Dead 2 came out the year before in '87 as well as this. But this new movie and Last Temptation of Christ was from 1988. So it's kind of weird that they would be playing at the same time. But don't you love how I'm focusing on all the wrong things in such a deep movie? Shout out, though, to Frank saying, pay attention to the screen, and Donnie whispering, as long as I don't have to watch Evil Dead anymore. But I mean, I don't know if that happened or not, but it sounded like it probably did. But anyway, I'm here to tell the hard truths. So the last thing I'll say is that it was hilarious in the newscast showing Cunningham's mansion burning down that they even called it a kitty porn dungeon. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? The writers of this movie were like, what's the worst possible thing we could make up to even be found here? How about a kitty porn dungeon? Like, what the fuck is that? I don't know, but it sounds really fucking bad. So put it in. I feel like that's how the conversation went. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually wrote in this set of scenes for me that I'm very glad that Brian's favorite movie of all time, The Evil Dead, is what they went to see. But because I knew that about you, but I didn't know you were going to announce it to the entire world that you have bad taste. But
oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. Nico's seen all those movies. He gets it.
Right.
I love Donnie being a jerk to Jim at this assembly because, again, it goes further to see. It wants to make you think that he's going crazy. He's rebelling, but really he is rebelling against the concept that he doesn't have free will. This is more of his self-actualization and realization coming to fruition. Like, he's becoming self-aware. He's waking up and he's challenging these. No, don't feed these kids bullshit. You want to lose weight? Eat better. Exercise. You want to not be a pussy? Fight back. Like, I really like that because it's levels to it. You can look at it like he's just being a jerk and he's rebelling and he's an asshole in this entire movie. But really, he's waking up. This set of scenes is really about him challenging that free will versus predetermined destination concept. Like when he's talking to his teacher here, this is what I was talking about earlier. And he asked too many questions. If he truly had free will and the teacher truly had free will, then they could keep having conversations. I view the fact that his teacher said, I can't talk to you anymore, I'll lose my job, as that was, if you want to think about like what's the religion? Is it Calvinism? I can't remember. But the religion is like the you got a clock timer, or I can't remember the word for it, but basically your life is set in motion and it's only going to go that same motion. It's that predetermined destination concept. Once you reach a roadblock, you're not going to be able to get through that. And so him asking his teacher for more information than he's actually supposed to know was like that, sentient being saying, no, let's redirect here. You're getting too close to the sun here. You're flying too high. Let's go somewhere else. And that stifled his ability to learn more. When he gets to the theater and he's on the date and she falls asleep and Frank shows up. I agree. The makeup looked great. He takes the mask off and it's like, okay. But I thought that the makeup looked great. But again, when he says you want to see a portal and he shows him the house and he tells him to burn it down. This goes back to what I was saying. In the book, we find out that the key to stopping the end of the earth is going to be able to control the water, control the fire. Well, here we had the water earlier. He floods the school. Now he's going to burn the house down. I don't know what it means. I'm just going to be honest with you. I can say a lot of words that make you think I'm smarter than I am right now, but I don't know what this means. Because there's a theory that I read that says that he had to do all these things to become the ultimate sacrifice to save the end of the world. When we get into that in the ending, like what actually ends up happening, but I don't understand why it was necessary for him to do burn the house down. If I guess I'll spoil the ending here. When we get the ending and we see Jim Cunningham not in jail, and it's like, what was the point of him actually having to do that to stop the end of the world if he ends up dying and none of that stuff actually happened? That's what's confusing to me. But anyway, it's another good set of scenes that'll make you think, but I'm just not really sure what it all means.
Well put.
Fair enough. October 24th, 1988. 6 days remain. The principal tells Karen that the methods of her teaching aren't appropriate. She says he has no clue what it's like to communicate with these kids. I am sorry that you have failed, he says. See, even in 1988, she got canceled, Dustin. You can finish out the week, and she runs out and yells, "Fuck!" She sees Sarita eating a snack and nods at her. Principal announces the dance team has made it to a star search in Los Angeles. Kitty celebrates until she sees the Jim Cunningham headline in the paper. Kitty is at the Darko residence, and they talk about Jim's arrest. Kitty says it's a conspiracy, and she's spearheading the campaign. She asks Rose if she can go, despite her being the last option to ask. She says this is a dream come true for her daughter. She doubts her commitment to Sparkle Motion. Rose sees the drawing over Donnie's calendar. She tells him that Elizabeth will be in charge of taking him to therapy. He asks how's it feel to have a wacko of a son. She says it feels wonderful. She caresses his cheek. Donnie writes a letter to Roberta Sparrow. October 26, 1988. 4 days remain. Donnie asks Karen, "What do I tell the other kids when they ask about you? What's cellar door?" She explains that cellar door is the most beautiful. She carries out her things. Donnie walks up to Sarita and promises to her that everything will be better for her one day, and she runs away. He sees her notebook. Her notebook had his name with a heart beside it. Donnie talks to his therapist again about wanting hungry, hungry hippos for Christmas. She asks, "What else do you regret?" He confessed to flooding his school and burning the pervert's house. He only has a few days left, and he has to obey him, or he'll be all alone. I won't be able to figure out the master plan. I have the power to build a time machine. How's that possible? Time's up, Frank said. He says this will happen soon, and he sits up and walks around the room. What's going to happen, she asks. Frank is going to kill. Who is he going to kill? And he yells, I can see him now. The sky will open up. She says if the world ends, it would only be you and him. She hugs Donnie and claps. October 29th, 1988. 1 day remains. Donnie walks into the kitchen, and Elizabeth tells him that she got into Harvard and they should throw a party. She says it has to be small, though. We now see a big costume party going on, and Donnie answers the doorbell, and his friends say they brought eggs, water balloons, and toilet paper, and they brought 4 beers. The therapist leaves a message for Rose saying it's urgent and to call her as soon as possible. Gretchen arrives, and he asks if she's okay. She says her mom's gone. He and Gretchen go upstairs to talk about her mother leaving. Did you call the cops, he asks. She says she's so scared and keeps thinking something awful happened and blames her stepdad. She takes off his hood and they kiss now. Elizabeth asks around if anyone's seen Frank, but he left on a beer run. Rose leaves a message saying they'll be back tomorrow around 8:30 a.m. Donnie and Gretchen walk downstairs after making coitus. October 30th, 1988.
God, I don't know why.
That's, ever since the Big Bang Theory, I always call it coitus now. October 30th, 1988, 6 hours remain. Gretchen walks away and Donnie's head begins to spin, and he follows the energy field to the board on the fridge. Frank was here, went to get beer. Donnie sees these, like, whatever they're called. I just call them energy beams everywhere. An energy beam flies into his face, and he hears cellar door. He grabs Gretchen and says, we have to see Grandma Death. And the next set of scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
So Drew Barrymore, or Karen, I guess, being fired here at the start, like I'm not sure what the point of this entire plot of her being fired like even means, besides just leaving the cellar door thing on the chalkboard. And I know that that helps guide Donnie to his destiny. But also come to find out that whole part was actually written for an older teacher who was about to get tenure and retire. Her dilemma was, if I support this, I could lose my tenure. But once Barrymore got a hold of it and wanted to be in it, Richard changed it to a younger and a newer teacher. Kelly's also quoted as saying that doing that helped them, he's sure, get an extra $1 million, I'm sure, at the box office returns. I do think that her character is very well written and well acted by Drew. I think there was a lot of focus on something that in the end, I don't think mattered at all. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. Who knows? Another fun fact, though, and I'm not sure where I saw this, but there are a ton of shirts out there that say, "quote Sometimes I doubt your commitment to sparkle motion." Like I feel like Nico needs that shirt. Redbubble.com doesn't sponsor us, but hey, you could. Um, I want to shout out Mary McConnell's performance too. I haven't said anything about her, but I think that she's pretty great in this movie, but especially this scene with Donnie. Like she does such a good job of looking genuinely worried about her son. I mean, now she doesn't do anything about it and but take her man fuck them kids award and kind of leave him. But genuinely, I think her performance in the scene is phenomenal. Just the way she plays it, I think it's great. Sidebar, last thing, I always wanted to have a Halloween party like this. Movies built up an unrealistic expectation to me. Anyway, about how I feel like Halloween parties should have been. I don't know
Well, let's
about y'all. Maybe your lives were better than mine. I always wanted to attend a Halloween party than this. I never got a chance to.
let's throw one this year, brother.
Let's go.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote down Karen getting fired didn't really advance any storyline other than the cellar door thing, but they honestly could have got that over just like having a scene take place in the class and that's written on the board. She's teaching on it. It's the most beautiful phrase.
Exactly.
Like we didn't need her getting fired, walking outside and screaming because honestly, I don't know why, but I don't like the way she screams. It just annoyed me. It was a very annoying scream. But there's a subtle touch in this set of scenes that I don't think gets appreciated enough. When Kitty shows up at the Darko's house, her hair is down and she looks like shit. Like she is distraught. And her hair has been up and neat and she's been snooty and prissy this entire movie. But just that subtlety of letting her hair down and it's kind of frizzy and you can just tell she like I don't know that was a really nice touch there to drive home how dire of a situation this was and to get her on the plane, get her to go and do this. Okay, another thing that I wrote: admitting crimes to a doctor will land your ass in jail. I don't know. There is a such thing as patient-doctor confidentiality, but when it's a crime, they are required to report that to the authorities. Or when you are deemed a threat to yourself or others, they're required to deem that to authorities. So, yeah, his ass would have been in jail and end of like roll credits. He's done.
Yep.
But for the sake of the movie, he admitted these things and she's troubled and I need to call your mom, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I can forgive it for the sake of the movie. And maybe things were different in 1988. I don't know. It's the year I was born. I wasn't seeing therapists at that time. I like the party as well, Brian. They do a great job of setting the atmosphere for this party. Oh, we got to throw a small party. Half the school's in this house. And I like the touch of his friends showing up and they have 4 beers. Like that's enough for an entire party. I love it.
And they say, "Oh, you only pussies drink out of the keg," and then the next shot is them drinking out of the keg. I love it.
Yeah, right. The whole thing of Frank was here and Frank, or we hear it audibly. Frank went to go get more beer, and then he looks on the fridge and Frank was here, went to get beer. Those are great ways of challenging that free will thing too, because does he have free will? Or are these things like he's flying too close to the sun? We got to reel him back in and make him do what he's supposed to do. Plant this name Frank because Frank's been visiting him. And now he's like, oh, we got to go see Grandma Death. We got to solve this. And why do we have to go see Grandma Death? Leave your girlfriend there. It's just one of those, regret is one of the worst things about humans. We constantly challenge, like, I wish I hadn't done that. And one thing happens and you're always like, man, if I hadn't done that one thing, things would be so much different. If I would have just went to see Grandma Death in the morning, my girlfriend would still be alive. And so, but did I actually have free will? Like, why did I have to do this right now? Why did I have to go in the middle of the night when I've been drinking at this high school party? So it's just one of those things that, again, I think really drives home this concept of free will versus predetermined nature.
All right, here's the ending. Donnie, Gretchen, and his two friends take off on their bikes. They get to Roberta Sparrow's house, and he puts his hood on. They go in through the cellar door and look around. Gretchen tickles some ivories. Donnie and Gretchen are attacked from behind by the two bullies. They're thrown to the ground, and one yells out, "They're dead." They send the two friends away, and a car approaches. The car runs over Gretchen, killing her. The bully runs away as he lets go of Donnie. Donnie walks up to her dead body, and he sees a person named Frank in the bunny costume. Donnie pulls out the gun and shoots him in the eye after he asks, "What were you doing in the middle of the road?" Donnie sends the kids in the clown costume away and to tell his parents everything will be okay. We get a close-up of Frank in the bunny head. We see Grandma Death walk away and Donnie carrying Gretchen's dead body. Donnie kisses Elizabeth's forehead and he grabs some keys. He looks up and sees a vortex form over his house. He takes a car and drives away with Gretchen's body. We see police cars pull up to the Darko house. We hear Frank's voice recite the time again of when the world ends. He overlooks the town from the mountainside. We now hear Donnie's and the professor's words on time travel again as the plane Rose and Samantha are on begin to shake. He hears Gretchen's words about going back in time to take away those times of pain and darkness with something better. The plane goes through the vortex and we see recap of previous events throughout the month. We now hear the words Donnie wrote to Miss Sparrow. "I hope when the world comes to an end, I can breathe a sigh of relief because there will be so much to look forward to." We now see Donnie laughing in bed. His dad is asleep in the chair and Elizabeth walk inside the house. Donnie puts his head down to rest. We now see the plane engine crash into Donnie's room, killing him. His parents awake and Elizabeth is in shock. October 2nd, 1988. The therapist awakes in a cold sweat. Mad World plays now as we see Karen and her man in bed. We see Jim Cunningham crying, Kitty on her bed in shock, and Sarita lying in bed. We see drawings of the bunny head at Frank's house and like a metal sculpture of it. We see paramedics taking Donnie's body out of the house. The family are all in tears grieving over his death. The engine is hauled away and we see Gretchen stop outside the house and talks to a neighbor kid asking what happened. Gretchen asks his name and she shares a long stare with Rose, seemingly knowing each other, but they can't remember. The kid asks if she knew him. She says no and waves at Rose. The kid waves too, and the film ends. All right, Brian, what do you think about that ending?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. How would I describe the ending? A mind fuck? I mean, look, again, it really doesn't make much sense unless you do the research. And even then, you've got to be on a level, I guess, that I'm just not to understand what's going on here. But I weirdly still like it. But for some reason, I'm able to say, like, oh, wow, okay, so it changed history in this almost like loop. And again, it's one of those things that I personally don't have to understand, I guess, and I'm just good with it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm such a sci-fi nerd anyway that shit is like easy for me to just accept and move forward without thinking too much about it. Now, again, there's so many theories about Donnie being a superhero, like Dustin touched on, enacting God's plan and saving the universe and the lives of Gretchen and Frank. Then there's the whole living receiver thing, not like Jerry Rice receiver, but like the incoming message receiver, and that it's a big cause and effect experiment. Is this just a dream? Is this a delusion brought on by paranoid schizophrenia, like we touched about? I don't fucking know. Personally, I side on the schizophrenia side of it of the argument, and I say that it's a dream state, and nothing really happened after he was killed in his room. But it's definitely one of those things that's left up for interpretation. I mean, and that's something I really love about this movie because nobody's wrong. I mean, unless you like Rubber and Evil Dead, then you're wrong. But that's
Oh
it.
boy.
Go ahead.
Oh boy. All right. So when they show up at Grandma Death's house, man, these goons that attacked him, those are some bad kids. Like you would think that just roughing up would be fine, but leaving a poor girl to die in the middle of the street like that's a bad kid. That's the moral of this story. That's a bad person.
Bunch of damn greasers.
Greasers, man. And then when the car unfortunately runs over her, and he jumps out of the car, and we see, oh shit, that's Frank, and it is the Frank that we've been seeing this whole movie. That's a very big oh wow moment in this movie. That's really the that last scene of Inception is the same thing. It's like, oh my God, is this real? Is this what's going on? Like, it's the same kind of feeling that you get in this moment here. My man Donnie is strong.
Yeah.
Not only did he plant an axe in the forehead of that statue and cause a flood, blah blah blah, he carried his dead girlfriend, literal dead weight, all the way home. That is some superhuman strength. So this one goes out to all the juggalos and juggalettes. Nico likes that.
Whoop whoop.
So, but then, this set of scenes, we get to see he's smiling a lot more. It's like he's realized his purpose. So a theory that I read, this really, he got his answer to, am I alone? That was a theme he was asking his therapist. I don't want to think that I am, but I don't even want to debate it anymore because I haven't seen signs of otherwise, blah, blah, blah. He got his answer here. He gets this realization that I serve a purpose from a higher power, so I'm not alone. The theory that I read was that, this movie, there's two timelines. There's the real universe, the real timeline, and then there's an alternate reality that has suffered a glitch and put it slightly behind the current reality. What the glitch was, I don't know. It's not really explained. But his purpose was to set these acts in motion so that he can save the world, because if these universes don't combine, then it's going to create a black hole and end the world. So by him doing all of this, and the plane that lost the jet engine is the one that his mom and sister is on, and so he had to serve the purpose. He had to be in bed when that jet engine fell off, so that when it fell through the portal, it takes him out and it saves it. I don't understand it, but that's what I read. Well, I read it multiple times.
I'm pretty sure Doc Brown, explained this. It's the timeline skews into alternate 1985. No, I don't know. It's just
yeah. What we didn't see is that IMG, those sunglasses they were wanting to put on babies, they actually featured a flux capacitor. And boom. So but anyway, I mean, so the theory is like, this stuff did happen, but it was an alternate reality. And one of the theories on deja vu is, when you have that feeling of deja vu, it's that you're doing something that happened in the alternate reality. So that's why when we see the mom and the girlfriend see each other, they're like, do I know you? And they wave awkwardly. And, everybody, once the plane engine falls through the ceiling, we see people sitting up in bed and waking up. It's because they're aware that someone they know, someone that's influenced their life, is like something's happened. There's a ripple. And again, I don't know. Nowhere in my incoherent rambling did I make anything that resembled a point, but I'm trying, man. I like it. I do like it. I just don't know what the hell to make of it.
There you
go. Yeah, I'm with you. Any more final thoughts on the ending before we just jump into social media real quick? We don't have a lot of comments tonight.
No, let's go.
All right, let's knock out Facebook real quick. Eric Doolittle commented, Patrick Swayze, Jake Gyllenhaal, Crazy Steve from Drake and Josh, Sharpay from High School Musical, and Seth Rogen all in one scene. Fuck it, let's do it. Chris_2020 on Instagram says, damn good original, mind-bending sci-fi, and Patrick Swayze's character has my last name, so double points. Hell yeah, brother. Joe Black Tattoos commented, Donnie Darko is the perfect kind of strange with a fire emoji. And the last comment we have is from JMan5765. Nostalgic for me, although I haven't seen it since I was in college many years ago. Used to love it. Excited to hear this episode. Appreciate you listening, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all we got for social media. Y'all ready to jump into fun facts real quick?
Let's do it.
All right. The first one I got is they're all from IMDb. And if anybody else is confused by the movie, this should make you feel a little bit better. At the wrap party for the film, Seth Rogen and Jake Gyllenhaal agreed that they had no idea what the movie was about. So the main character of the movie don't even know what the fuck the movie's about. So if you don't know, that's good on you. The movie was filmed over a period of 28 days, which matches the length of the time depicted in the film. I think that's pretty cool. This is pretty interesting. The first edit of the film ran 2 hours and 45 minutes. The director's cut is very close to the version that premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2001. I'm glad this one isn't 2 hours and 45 minutes because that's a long ass movie. But I would like to watch that at least one time. And the last one I have is while filming the scene where Kitty Farmer speaks about how Donnie directed her to put a Lifeline exercise card in an uncomfortable place, writer and director Richard Kelly laughed so hard that he had to leave the set. And that's the last fun fact I got. Go ahead, Brian.
The only one I have is the scene where Donnie corrects Gretchen. It was actually improvised because Jenna Malone could not say the name Professor Kenneth Monatoff correctly.
All right, so I got two that I was going to combine here. Brian, you mentioned one of them earlier. I think it was you about how Drew Barrymore and Richard Kelly agreed that her production company would produce this film for $4.5 million. So Kelly said that if she didn't step in, the movie would have gone either straight to video or cable television via the Starz network. But another one I read was that Christopher Nolan was also very influential in this movie securing a cinematic release. So I'm not sure what his role was. I did, Drew Barrymore, obviously her company produced it, but that's pretty cool that the two of them believed in it enough to get a theatrical release. It's very unfortunate though that 9/11, kind of derailed this movie's box office success because the trailer and a lot of it hinged on the plane crash and they pulled the ads. But anyway, next one I have is that Vince Vaughn turned down the part of Donnie Darko because of his age. He was well out of his teenage years at this time.
Holy
Mark
shit.
Wahlberg was interested in the part, but was only willing to play the part with a lisp. Jason Schwartzman was also strongly considered for Donnie, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. Tim Robbins was the first choice for the role of Eddie Darko. That one, I could see that. That would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Mara Wilson was considered for the role of Samantha, but she turned it down. So just some interesting what could have been. I'm glad they went with what they got. Honestly, the casting in this movie is phenomenal, top to bottom.
Yep.
And the last one I have is that when they've got the house party going on, someone is jumping on the trampoline wearing a Ronald Reagan mask, and this was inspired from a photo of Hunter S. Thompson doing the exact same thing. So he was an interesting man himself.
I'll knock out the budget real quick. Money Mike couldn't make it. He's doing big wedding things tonight. Shout out to Mike. Box office according to IMDb is an estimated $6 million, but from what I read, it was like $4.5 million. So it's in that range. Opening weekend, big stinker, but Dustin's already touched on that. The opening weekend in the U.S. got $110,494. Gross $1,478,493, and worldwide was just a little under $7 million. But according to the Wikipedia, after reissues, it went on to gross $7.5 million worldwide, and the film went on earning more than $10 million in U.S. home video sales and gained a cult following. So at least it picked up steam afterwards. But that whole 9/11 thing probably did kind of mess up everything.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Bin Laden.
Yeah. All right, y'all ready to jump into the favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to go first tonight. Just get it out of the way. Just want to say I missed Mike tonight. I was looking forward to hearing what he had to say. He actually texted me, he liked the movie, so now my guy's not on my team tonight, but it's all good. But my favorite kill, this isn't really a movie you really care about the kills too much, but I just chose Frank getting shot in the eye. Yeah. And my least favorite kill was Gretchen getting ran over because I like Gretchen, but I'm not really that interested in the kills in this movie. I just wrote a little paragraph and said, self-admitted, not a huge sci-fi fan, but I'm glad Brian picked this month just so I had a chance to rewatch this and review it. I think a lot of aspects of this movie are incredible. The acting, cinematography, sorry for using that word, the score, the song choice throughout, the humor, The dive into mental health, life as a teenager, and I wrote Frank is creepy as hell. Fun cast top to bottom. Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible in this, and you have legends like Patrick Swayze, Drew Barrymore. Then you have the career kickoff of Seth Rogen, some other familiar faces in horror, such as DeVay Chase, Samara from The Ring, and Beth Grant, Andy's teacher from Child's Play 2. I love that this movie makes you think and deep dive into it, but that can also be a criticism, like what the hell just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of a lot of just in particular scenes, like the love and fear scene. Love it. Donnie calling out Jim Cunningham, the initial dinner. There's a lot of just individual scenes I really, really like. But anywho, I'm a big fan. The movie holds up very well, in my opinion. And this is one of two movies that Jake Gyllenhaal says is his two proudest moments of his career. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oh shit! Okay. I have the same favorite death and least favorite death, Frank and Gretchen there. So this movie is definitely the multiverse before MCU and DCU made that mainstream. I told Nico in a text earlier when he said he thinks that I didn't like it as his prediction for my score. By the way, never let them know your next move, Kings. Never let them know. But I said I have no idea if I liked it 20 years ago when I saw it. I'm definitely not going to start knowing whether I liked it now. And yeah, so there's absolutely no doubt this film has a huge cult following. The IMDb score reflects that. Hell, it's voted number 9 on Film 4's 50 films to see before you die. The cult following for this movie is like Rob Zombie huge. I mean, it's a big cult following. And I mean, I know there's people on Al Gore's interwebs who think that this is the best movie ever made. Who am I to disagree with you? I have no idea if it is or not. But in the highly acclaimed Brian's The Only Score That Matters digest, trademark copyright, trade rolling vibes, this is rated a 6.75.
Ooh, okay. All right, didn't see that coming. So my kills were the same as you guys. Frank's was more significant because it tied up a loose knot we got earlier. When we see Frank, we're like, oh, wait, what happened to his eye? Oh, he got shot in the eye. So that's the reason I liked his. I didn't like Gretchen's because Jenna Malone is hot, and I hope that she calls me sometime. So I don't want to see her get ran over by a car.
Good reason. I mean, that's as good a reason as any, I guess.
You know, as far as this movie, though, like I said, I like it. I don't understand it, but I like it. There's certain movies, and I can hear him now. I can hear Sean Irwin saying that's the reason you didn't like Color Out of Space is because you didn't understand it. No, that one didn't make me think. That one just frustrated the hell out of me. This one makes you think. This one makes you like, wait, what's going on? Wait. And there's a lot of multiple themes here, themes that are very relevant to everyday life. Like, do we have free will? Is that a thing? Are we on a predetermined path? So the acting is great. The dialogue is great. Everything about the atmosphere is great. So I gave this movie an 8.25.
Damn, wow.
And that gives us an overall composite score of 8. And what's nuts, because we only had 3 scores tonight, the IMDb score is an 8 exactly. We know what we're talking about, Kings.
Hell
you want to
yeah.
get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Love to see it. Any more final thoughts on Donnie Darko before we just shout out our blood donors and Dustin will announce his pick?
Let's do it.
If there are any of the cult following Donnie Darko people who listen to this and we got anything wrong, I'm sorry. If this was a very tough movie to review, honestly. Pretty tough one.
Send your hate mail to @settle m. Oh wait,
yes, ML92.
Yeah, send them all to him. But anywho, let's shout out our blood donors. We just want to thank y'all very much. It really takes a big burden off of us. Our camper level reoccurring are Clayton J, Nina Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, and Sean Irwin. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast, Karen and Heather Smith, and our legendary blood donors. We just released her film choice, Sarah Irwin. Going forward, I'm not going to feel bad about how I rate a movie ever again. She gave Rubber a 9.5. So I'm just going to give my picks from here to the future, a 10.5 at the minimum. Sarah Owen, we just released her blood donor pick, Rubber, this past week, so definitely check that out. And our new Dream Warrior donor is David Farley. I just want to say I appreciate y'all. Take a big burden off of us. It, like I've said previous few weeks, tough times economically. It's not easy for a lot of people, families. So the fact that you're willing to help us and donate some money really means a lot to us, and we really thank you. Dustin, you want to announce your pick as we close out Sci-Fi month next week?
Yeah, let's do it. So, movie that I chose is one that had I don't know that it's been on my list since we announced that we were doing this movie or this since I joined the show, but it's one that has been on my mind since I first saw it in Coach Collins' classroom when I was a sophomore in Loudon High School. He showed us this movie in chemistry class, and I was so confused by it. But it's lived rent-free in my head for all these years later. It's got a great cast. I went with 1997's Gattaca.
And to no one's surprise, I've never seen this movie.
That's okay, buddy. Let me sell you on it real quick. Ethan Hawke, Uma Thurman, Jude Law, Maya Rudolph, Tony Shalhoub, Alan Arkin. What more do you need?
Okay.
Sci-Fi month brought to you by Starship Troopers and a bunch of movies that will fuck with your mind.
And Dean Norris, who was in Starship Troopers.
Oh shit, let's go.
All right. Just want to say thank you to all of our fans and listeners. Really appreciate all support. I'm just going to throw this out there as just for my own personal. If you have theories on Donnie Darko, comment on our social media posts. I would like to hear them just for the hell of it. But looking forward to Gattaca next week. Business has been booming, and stay tuned for some more content later this week. Y'all have a good one.
Just want to remind everybody,